Ren from Hallowed Be Thy Game, and today we're talking about my first impressions of Scarlet Nexus. Let's check it out. Hello friends, today I just want to share with you my initial thoughts and impressions on this brainpunk action RPG. Every once in a while a game comes around that I'm decently excited for, and then it just ends up catching me off guard and captivates my attention fully. Scarlet Nexus has shown itself to be potentially one of the best action RPGs that Bandai Namco has released outside of publishing the FromSoft games. Full disclosure, this is my first impressions of Scarlet Nexus, as I'm currently about 15 hours through the game at the time of recording this script. Now we begin the journey of Scarlet Nexus by choosing one of two story routes with Kasane Randall and Yuito Sumeragi. For my first playthrough, I chose Yuito's story route. Yuito comes from a prominent political family and is your kind-natured anime protagonist. I love it. We begin his story with his induction into an elite group of fighters known as the OSF, or the Other Special Force. The monsters in this game are called Others, just to clear that up. This is a band of fighters that have unique special powers that allow them to use their strong brain power to perform unique abilities. Examples would be Yuito and Kasane's ability to move and throw objects with their mind, or Hanabi's pyro abilities that allow you to deal fire damage to your foes. The two story routes begin relatively the same, but branch out from one another rather early in the game while overlapping at key points in the journey. You will have to complete both routes to fully understand all the questions you're going to have in this game. I found myself genuinely surprised by how dark the story got at times. The surprises and twists and turns in the story so far have my full attention. A major contributing factor to this is the cast of characters. The story is captivating, but with the stakes being so high at points, I find myself genuinely concerned for all the party members' safety. With a single exception, I am always hopeful that everyone's going to make it out of each chapter of the game safe. Presentation. If you follow me on Twitter, then you will know that I have not shied away from the fact that Scarlet Nexus reminds me of one of my all-time favorite Nintendo Switch games, Astral Chain. Criminally underrated. There is really no ignoring it, but yes, the presentation of Scarlet Nexus has taken notes from the very best, and they've crafted a world that is a futuristic, neon, brainpunk, dystopian world. Woo! That was a mouthful. The sleek and stylish aesthetic is absolutely one of my favorite parts of Scarlet Nexus. One aspect that I do think is of note that could be polarizing for some is the fact that the majority of all cutscenes and dialogue is delivered in a very unique take on the visual novel genre. Personally, I love this. I think it's very well done. It's never just an entire scene of static images, but rather delivered with a constant upbeat tempo that never interrupts the fast-paced nature of the game. I am also a big fan of how the game presents the must-needed information in the combat with its combat UI and menu systems. Even with the minimalistic UI aesthetic in combat, it is laid out in a way that is sleek and it's cool, it's true to the nature of the game, while never being intrusive, which is what I always want in my games. And yeah, while there's a feast for the eyes going on in combat, you don't want to feel as if the UI is getting in the way. The UI for the menu system is intuitive and easy to navigate, as all menus should be. There is a lot of gameplay systems and menus to cycle your way through, but it is handled masterfully. The gameplay loop of Scarlet Nexus will give you the option of doing side missions and the standard RPG progression mechanics, but one thing I love greatly is that the side quests will always tell you the enemy that you're going to need to kill and how you need to kill them. I very much appreciated that the library submenu allows you to look up any monster that you would need for a quest, and it tells you what zone they're located in. Thank you. Yes, more information in RPGs is never a bad thing, and the presentation of Scarlet Nexus supplements my enjoyment in the gameplay progression loop. Music. Look, when you're in a brain-punk dystopian future where everyone's brains are just one bad decision away from being devoured by a bouquet of flowers that have not skipped leg day, then you need one bangin' soundtrack to jam out while you're trimming the hedges. The battle theme for this game is friggin' epic, and it never gets old. While exploring the mechanics to combat and deciphering the different systems in the game, I did a lot of farming in certain areas. I mean, a lot. Not once in all of the fighting did the music ever stop being anything other than awesome. Even now, it gets my adrenaline going. It complements the flashy and intense nature of combat in the best of ways. Also, while you are out exploring the non-combat areas of the game, such as the main hub or the starting city, you are treated to some chill and upbeat tunes to explore. Scarlet Nexus has such a glorious take on the Blade Runner anime police knots aesthetic to every location, and the soundtrack to the game carries such a nice mixture of styles to help evict the right emotions for what you are experiencing. Really, I think this is going to be an OST that would tempt me to pick up a vinyl copy of if I haven't already missed out on the boat. Even if action RPGs aren't your thing, I would encourage anyone to at least give the soundtrack a listen. It's top notch. Combat. How do I put this into words? My lord, it's good. Look, if this game does anything right, it absolutely lands the style and flair of how anime action RPGs should be. I've obviously made comparisons to Astral Chain, and this spiritual sequel to that game pays homage while making its own very distinct mark on the genre. The basic tenets of this brain-punk combat system is style, panache, and basic combat abilities. I did play this on PS5, but by hitting square you can perform a basic slash, hitting circle will cause you to dash, and by holding R1 you will open up SAS abilities. These abilities range from buffs to casted abilities that open up combat potential. Also, the haptic feedback on the PS5 controller allows it to where if you have enough resources to cast an ability, there will be resistance in the cast, and if you don't have enough resources, obviously the trigger's loose. I loved this feature. Yes, you have your usual suspects when it comes to combat mechanics, but the unique systems to Scarlet Nexus hinge on how you utilize your party's brain abilities. As an example, even though you have a dodge ability, there will be some moves in the game that are borderline undodgeable. The way you can deal with this scenario is to utilize the power of Gemma, who is the brawler in your party. By tapping into his ability, you can negate all incoming damage for a certain period of time. Perhaps you are fighting an enemy that is inherently weak to fire. Then utilize Hanabi's top tier pyro abilities to ignite your weapon with. There is a massive amount of depth to this combat system that I believe will really shine in the game's harder difficulties. Where I'm at in the story, you can have up to 4 party abilities available to you during combat. There is a skill tree in the game that opens up a lot of combat abilities, but as well as unlocking the ability to have multiple party member buffs on you at any given time. This is where the creative team flexed their muscles in Scarlet Nexus's combat system. Having your party members' buffs active will provide absurdly strong perks to your effectiveness in combat. When their ability is active, it will slowly drain their SAS gauge. When fully depleted, you will lose the effect and have to wait for it to recharge. Now, I have mentioned the modifier of holding R1 to gain access to your party's abilities. By holding L1, you'll be given the option to utilize a powerful attack that will consume 60% of your party member's SAS gauge, but it will unleash a powerful spell from that party member onto your target. There's 2 ways of destroying foes. You can either just deplete their health pool, or in some cases where monsters have an absurdly large health pool, you'll need to break their stance and then do massive amounts of damage with brain crush abilities. Doing this will unleash a stylish, flashy scene, but absolutely wreck their health pool. The buffs and powers from your team members stray away from the norm of what you would expect and range from abilities such as stealth, damage reduction, doubling your spell usage, to being able to reveal hidden enemies. Lastly, for combat, I have to mention the absurdly cool Brain Drive Super Saiyan state that you can achieve. This is essentially a power buff that makes everything hit harder, you're stronger, it's fantastic, it's awesome. But if I have any nitpick, it would be that this power unlocks passively as you are fighting. I really wish I could initiate this power buff on my own choosing, but hey, Dragon Quest XI did it with the PEP system, and FF9 did it with Trance, so it is what it is. However, while in this form, you can go Super Saiyan 3 even further by entering into a powerful state where you have godlike powers. It's epic, I loved it, I can't get enough of it. Scarlet Nexus does an excellent job of splicing together gameplay systems with your own power progression. But I do want to stress that all of these many combat systems are introduced to you at a very manageable rate. There is a lot of moving parts though. With this colorful cast of characters, I am so happy to tell you that there are bond missions you can go on to know them better, but these bond missions also have in-combat bonuses similar to the Persona social link system. As you become closer to your party members, you will unlock further combo potential in combat that completely alters your power levels. Excellent system, and it is one of my personal favorites for giving me another reason to care about my party members. Your real power creep in the game will come from upgrading your skill tree, upgrading everyone's weapons, and giving your team gifts to unlock more plugin slots. These plugins are essentially stat boosts that can range from shielding you from damage, increasing your spell power, or a generic health boost. I do appreciate that there are plugins that help negate certain elemental damage and also boost your status effects. I look forward to the higher difficulties in the game where I'm sure these nuanced systems become much more mandatory for progression. There's a lot of moving parts here, but as this video wraps up, I want to leave you with some tips that I wish I had known before starting my journey through Scarlet Nexus. First off is as the story progresses, you will unlock the Exchange tab at the shop merchant. This is an invaluable system that allows you to convert resources into everything from weapons, the visual customization, to plugins. Money is not abundant in this game, so learn to utilize this feature as soon as it's unlocked. Also, the combat gets very complex, but don't sweat it. The game is going to ease you into all these systems and more. Another tip I want to leave with you is always be mindful of when the L2 ability is active. This will utilize your brain power to at times just do massive damage to a group of enemies. Sometimes it can even one-shot certain monsters, or you can maybe unload a barrel of oil onto an enemy and then use Hanabi's fire ability to set it on fire. These status effects and combo potential and breaking enemies should really be your first priority. It's a fantastic system, and once it clicks, it's going to go very smoothly for you. Scarlet Nexus is a new IP, and that always makes everyone nervous. I can confidently say that this game has won this Astral Chain mega fan over, and I'm very much looking forward to all this franchise has to offer. There's apparently an anime tie-in coming, and I'm hopeful for that. And I think that if you're a fan of action RPG combat, then do not miss out on this unique title. It's definitely blown my mind for sure. But is this a title that has caught your interest? Let me know down in the comments if you're going to be picking this one up. Like this video if you liked it, subscribe and hit that notification bell for more action RPG content. And until then, I'll see you all next time.